All right, welcome to Techlore Talk 7. There is like no big highlight news for us, and we asked you guys last time to leave topic ideas, and we didn't get many. So, if you want to see more topics covered that we discuss between amongst ourselves, just let us know.
Is this guy a retard?
It's silly, and I think what's funny is that if you actually ask that question, most people would say, well, I wasn't actually planning it to daily drive the phone. But
Yeah.
when you ask people in separate conversations, they'll be like, you can totally daily drive this phone. When, like, you can't. And most people aren't going to daily drive a Linux phone. Like, I want these things to do well. I want there to be an alternative to Android. But, like, what I've tested and reviewed, even with Pine phones, like, at least you can order a Pine phone and get one.
Mm-hmm.
And at least, like, the price is somewhat reasonable for what you're getting. But it's not something I could ever daily drive. And you know how little I use my phone and how few things I use my phone for.
Right.
And I still can't daily drive a Pine phone.
Mm-hmm.
I feel overwhelmed with just like having things scattered on two accounts sometimes. So I personally, as of right now, really don't self-host anything. I like the reliability that's offered to me via people who their sole job is to guarantee reliability for things that I'm doing. And so like that's giving the other side of things too is when you are self-hosting something, you are now claiming complete ownership and complete responsibility over that data, which is both the pro and the con of self-hosting things. So for me, as of right now, I don't self-host really anything. I mean, I tinker with things here and there, but like there's nothing I'm reliant on in my digital workflow that requires self-hosting anything. Granted, I'm in the process right now of experimenting with like a Synology NAS at some point and seeing if maybe I can host all my photos in a central place because I haven't found a great photo storage solution that's centralized and allows me to access things remotely and that matches my privacy and security needs outside of something like a NAS. But um, what do you self-host versus what FOSS do you use versus what do you pay for? That's a big question. I will say I actually answered this kind of on a surveillance report. I think it was SR 117 or 118. Very recent, last few weeks. Someone asked like what we self-host, Nate and I on surveillance report, and I don't really self-host anything. I really don't like self-hosting things because I don't want to be responsible for my data, and that's the whole selling point of self-hosting something, which I fully understand. But like uptime for me is super important. Like I can't stand when something is down for even 10 minutes. And I hate troubleshooting things. I hate maintaining my own stuff. I like things to just work. I used to be more like in control of everything, and I feel like I've hit a good balance now with my life where I trust the services that I'm giving control to, and I trust them to handle my data, my privacy and security extremely well, but they can also guarantee uptime. They can guarantee that like everything is just going to work almost 24/7. So that is something I've migrated to. With that said, I do have a Synology NAS sitting there that they sent me for a review. And I just picked up two 14 terabyte hard drives a couple days ago. So I'm going to pop those babies in there and we're going to see what the self-hosting life is more like. The one thing I do really want to self-host is photos because I don't have a very good photo solution. Right now I have just like an external hard drive with all my photos laying on it, and it's a ridiculous configuration. If someone asks me, hey, do you have that photo that we took 3 years ago? And I go, yeah, but it's going to take me like 5 hours to find it because I have like no organization system for it. So I would love to get over on like the Synology NAS and be able to upload and view my photos from anywhere. And I think that it has its own like Google Photos-esque features built into Synology software where you can easily like sort things and have everything organized very cleanly. So that's like the one thing I could justify self-hosting. Everything else, it's hard for me to justify self-hosting. It really is, because there's such great options on the market already that are all zero knowledge or end-to-end encrypted, and the implementation is fantastic. And I also have a very, very minimal digital lifestyle. I don't do much with tech. And if it wasn't for Techlore, I probably wouldn't even have a computer, which is what I said earlier. So like I just don't do much with my tech. Like photos are the only thing that like I really need to worry about storing and doing something with them. That's really it. I love web-based stuff. Everything I use is web-based. I can't stand local programs and applications. I'm a web-based shill for sure. I love things that are web-based. They say that on their own website too. They say this is for developers. They say it's for testing. Purism, on the other hand, doesn't really say anything like that, and it's kind of advertised as like a phone.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of their marketing. They're really overselling some of their stuff. It's funny. I was
Yeah.
just talking to somebody about that the other day, though. It's like the state of Linux phones in general is just it could use a lot of work. It kind of reminds me of like Linux on the desktop 10 years ago. I remember a lot of people 10 years ago would always say like it's totally usable now as your main device, and it really wasn't at the time. But I think now like that's a genuine argument that you could make. A lot of people do like daily drive Linux, and it works very well, and it has pretty good app support. Um, Especially even like gaming, all the recent like Steam Deck stuff that's been pushing gaming development forward on Linux. So it's it's gotten to the point where those arguments are true, but it took like at least a solid decade, and I think we're just at the beginning of that with Linux phones. I think it's going to be a lot more time before we see them usable for most people.
Did you hear about the Cerebral situation for health data?
I've not. What's going on with that?
So the markup has been covering this pretty well, especially over on Mastodon, but even in their articles. So pretty much this company,
Oh, are
Cerebral,
they the company that's like selling prescription like Adderall?
yeah, they're selling health data to pretty much tons of tracking companies, and this ended up impacting here. Let me
So
get
it
the actual
gets so it
number
gets
on this.
worse, is what I'm hearing. Because I think they've been in the news before for like their advertising on TikTok. If it's the same company I'm thinking of.
I don't know if it's that one. I don't remember. Maybe it is, but at least the current story right now is that over 3 million users were impacted by mental health startup, the
Oh yeah,
Cerebral
data
data
breach.
sharing. I don't know if it's even a data breach. It's just like they're straight up sending mental health data to third parties,
This article on
which,
Bleeping Computer says that they alerted 3 million people of a data breach 5 hours ago.
ooh,
Notice of
I
HIPAA
wonder.
privacy breach published on Cerebral's site this week. It sounds like it is their data sharing. It's they had been using invisible pixel trackers from Google, Facebook.
So many like invasive things call themselves HIPAA compliant, and I'm always like, but is it HIPAA compliant? And then you don't really see some of like the really secure and private tools actually try to make that claim, because I think that they know that there's always that like risk of something not actually being that secure. So I feel like these high security services, like I don't think Signal advertises it's HIPAA compliant, but it most definitely is. Okay, I'm reading this article from the HIPAA Journal. It's a whole website dedicated to just HIPAA. Um, is Signal HIPAA compliant? It says at the time of publication, Signal does not enter into business associate agreements with users, and that means that the platform is not HIPAA compliant, so should not be used by healthcare organizations for providing telehealth services or for communicating any EPHI,
Personal
electronic
health information.
personal, yeah, thank you, with patients or other individuals, as Signal is not a HIPAA compliant messaging app. So why does there have to be a business associate agreement for something to be private or secure for the users? It's just the legal side of things,
Right.
I
I think
assume.
it's just legally, um, like if a hospital is going to use a service, they probably want a written assurance that the service that they're using is HIPAA compliant. And Signal is not going to put that down in writing at the moment.
That is probably it. And that makes me sad because like we talk all the time about like, well, we want like privacy regulation and we want like rules and legal stuff around this to help protect users and give them more rights. because sometimes laws can give individuals more rights. And like, this is one of those situations where the people that go regulation doesn't work definitely have a valid point. And it's when it's done like this, when these regulations are done so poorly, that doesn't really make much sense to the end user, and it might not be helping them, because instead of people using, Signal to communicate with their therapist, which might be much more secure, they might be using Zoom, which I believe is HIPAA compliant. Yep, Zoom complies with the provisions of the HIPAA security rule that are required and applicable to it in its capacity as a business associate. So,
Makes sense.
like just because Zoom has like the legal stuff taken care of, now people are going to use Zoom instead of using probably a better platform for most people like Signal, which is really sad. I guess that's definitely a valid point for people. Like, we shouldn't over rely on regulation, but I still think it's an important step.
What were you saying about in chat earlier about Microsoft Edge?
So on Chromium, I don't know if this is, I think it's baked into Chromium, like the profile support. Like, you can have different profiles in Chromium. Either way, it's found in like Google Chrome, I believe. Google Chrome has that.
Has
and then you
profiles
also
for
have
sure.
Brave that has that Edge. I assume that it's baked into Chromium. So pretty much in Brave, you can have different profiles, which are nice. So you can have like a profile for personal stuff, for work stuff, or school stuff, and it's all with the same browser.
Is this guy a retard?
I won't name names, but like certain people have like reached out to us and been like, "You better not talk about us." And it's like, we weren't planning on talking about you. And then they make an ass of themselves anyway, and it's like, what? like you literally dug yourself into like the deepest hole possible,
Right.
and like you're now like, "Oh, I want privacy. Leave me alone." And it's like everyone's leaving you alone. Like, it's so funny. Someone left a comment on our old video, like the old one that's like WhatsApp versus Signal versus Telegram. I need to do more videos like that because they're really fun. But like that video, someone left a comment like within the last week of recording this, and it's like, "This didn't age well, lol. Signal removing SMS support, haha." And I'm like, did you not see like Telegram's having like NFT usernames now?
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
Pretty much what the main place where I get everything on my phone is Signal, my browser, my RSS feed, and my podcast app.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really bummed that despite my RSS feed and my podcast app relying on the same damn technology, they're not the same app. Because a lot of RSS feeds don't seem to account for podcasts, and podcasts apps don't account for traditional like article RSS feeds, which is a bummer. And then I was looking at Brave, because Brave actually allows you to add custom RSS feeds, and it would sync across clients. Except it doesn't. So if you add a custom RSS link on mobile, it doesn't sync to desktop.
Huh.
Isn't that the most bizarre thing you've ever
Does
heard?
it?
Wow, what a waste. The poor children.
SimpleX, that Signal alternative, I don't even know what to call messengers that just try to copy Signal and remove the phone number requirement at this point. But SimpleX has VC funding apparently.
Yeah, I heard about that. I don't know what to think about that. It's kind of the same reaction I had to Bitwarden's VC funding announcement, which was like, okay, what's your monetization strategy here?
But Bitwarden has a monetization
And they do. They have like business plans and stuff like that.
And even for personal, like a lot of people pay for Bitwarden because it's cheap and there's actually like enticing features to upgrade for.
Mhm.
But SimpleX, how are they going to make money?
It's hard for me to come up with a way for them to monetize that, and I don't know where did they announce that in like a blog post or something?
It was literally just a Reddit comment. That's the downside. Someone linked
Right.
just a Reddit comment that the developer or whoever runs SimpleX made.
That's what
It
I
just
was kind
says,
of
we have
wondering.
some
Like,
VC funding.
yeah, it was a weird announcement. It was like 6 days ago. They just said, we also raised a small pre-seed investment from Angels/VC. We will be covering it soon. And that seems to be how they announced it, just a reply to a random Reddit thread. Weird. I haven't used Simplex that much. I can tell you I'm a fan of it in the sense that I have used it for at least a couple days with some people, and it works like infinitely better than Session, which I'm not a fan of. So so in that sense I am a fan of Simplex. I think if I knew other people that also use Simplex, I would actually use it and enjoy using it. But I don't see a need to switch people that I chat with to Simplex, and I don't really see its advantage over Signal for my personal use, so I'm not gonna like switch everything to it anytime soon.
In fairness to Session, they finally released landscape support for the iPad.
Really?
So when you have your iPad in keyboard mode, you're not tilting your head.
I fight for the users.